Hi, this is Glenda, and today I will be making an abalone themed soap. I'm going to start by the making of the embeds, for which I use premium crystal clear melting port from Crafter's Choice or Wholesale Supplies Plus. I am going to cut some slices out of it, and they are fairly thick, and I didn't do a good job the first time, and I guess it's because I was cutting it from a vertical position. I may have had more control if I had set the slab of the soap on a cutting board, but fairly roughly it's about a 1/4 inch thickness that works best, because then that will give you enough height to later do the planing if needed. And I'm cutting some of these like in random shapes, most of them like a rectangular shape, and I am rounding off the corners. And then for some of them I try cutting them into an oval shape with a small cookie cutter type. This is actually a tool I got from the polymer clay section from Hobby Lobby a while back. Then I will be using some micas like the ones you see on the screen. These are from Wholesale Supplies Plus as well, but anything should work in similar colors. And I'm trying to imitate the colors of an abalone necklace I have. So I see a lot of green, teal, and turquoise tones in it. So I'm just randomly going to apply the mica on the back of, or what will be the back of the embed, in just a random pattern. I am tactile, so I prefer using my fingers. However, you could probably also use a brush to apply this. Some of the colors should overlap, and every area that is not covered with any color should be revisited, and then you should apply more mica if needed. Next will come the adding of the curves, and I will be using a round plier just because I had it nearby, but anything that is pointy should work, and kind of thick. You want it to be somewhat thick for the next step. And I'm just trying to do random curves, and whatever I see a concentration of color, I try to make an oval shape just to, or like a round shape, to imitate the abalone that I have on the screen. And then it's pretty much just a matter of doing a squiggly lines around it or surrounding it. You could feel free to play with this and just do any pattern that you may like. For the next step, you are going to need some sort of black mica. I will be using black pearl from Nurture Soap in a round brush. This is, I think any brush will work. This one in particular has synthetic fibers, and I'm just pretty much dipping it inside the mica and then tapping it so that the mica goes into the grooves that we made with the pointy tool. And this is pretty much it. Even though the mica is going to cover the rest of the paint, you will not be able to see it because the, say the teal or the green mica has already adhered to the melting port. So whatever you put on top is not really going to cover it, but it's only going to go in the areas where there is no mica colored already. And now the last step is to clean it up, and to do that I'm using a planer to just shape a thin slice from the top. And to do this you ought to be really careful because the blade on these planers is really sharp and you don't want to cut your fingers. Alternatively, you could probably also wipe it off, but I prefer to just planing off the top for me. And this is pretty much it. On this particular piece, I noticed that some areas were becoming see-through, so I applied more of the mica. And this one has a very irregular shape. It was one of my first ones. And in here you can see this one I tried to just wipe off the top, but by doing so I added a texture, so I ended up planing it just so that it would be smooth on the top. For the actual soap, I will be using Abalone and Sea fragrance oil. I have the oils here, and they are warm up to 104 Fahrenheit. The light water solution, it's at 76 Fahrenheit or 24 Celsius, and the oils in Celsius are at 39 degrees. Now, the light water solution looks white, and you can see it has little pieces on top because it has a little bit of coconut milk in it, and it seems that the fats in the coconut milk reacted with the lye, so the lye somewhat saponified or turned them into soap already. I went ahead and strained most of it, and I just left a little bit in the actual mix. The fragrance itself has a lot of fresh and clean notes. It will probably, at first I thought it was more of a masculine scent, but the more I smell it, the more I realize it's kind of neutral, uh, very much like an ocean type scent. Now that I measured the oil, I'm going to start blending the oils in the light water solution so that I can come to an emulsion phase. And I usually just like to use the stick blender for a few seconds and then stir it for even longer, and then use the stick blender again so that it comes to emulsion and to trace slowly. And I learned from Amy from the Sub Challenge Club to keep checking on the shaft of the stick blender to see if the mix is coating it or if it's breaking apart. Up to this point, I'm not quite sure of the design of the body of the soap. I do know what I'm going to be putting on top, and it is some chopped melted pork pieces of different colors. I also have some silver holographic glitter, and this is biodegradable glitter. It's meant to only go on top because it seems that if it goes inside the soap, you cannot see it. And I will be putting a link to the blog post in the description box below so that if you want to see the recipe or the supplies that I'm using that you see on screen, you will be able to find them there. I think it has reached emulsion, so I'm going to add the fragrance. I've never used it, so I don't know how it behaves. I also have some silver mica with some silver glitter that I'm going to use for a swirl on the top. And I'm just going to stir it in case it does happen to accelerate. It will give me some time to put it into the mold. Depending on how the soap behaves after this point, I may add some color or not. And I like to monitor the acceleration by taking the temperature. If it starts warming up fast, it means it will be accelerating. Right now, the first reading was at like 90.7 Fahrenheit. And then when I took the temperature, like a minute or two later, it was at 91. So it hadn't raised too much. So I decided to split a little bit of the soap batter into containers for coloring. And because I wasn't ready ahead of time, I just added the embodied glitters straight to the mix. Usually I prefer to disperse them in mica because I feel it's easier. And in here you can see how it's clumping. So I did have to use the stick blender to distribute it better, which also I think contributed to it thickening up faster than they would have if I had just stirred them with a spatula. When I was looking at pictures of other abalones to have a better idea of the colorant, I found several articles with very interesting information. First, that I found interesting is that the abalone is considered the snail of the ocean, and a lot of people like to eat its meat as a delicacy. This, in turn, has led to overfishing to the point that several of the species of abalones are endangered. Among those ones, you can find the red and the white abalones. Something else that I found interesting is that abalones, in a similar manner to oysters, produce pearls. However, their pearls are not white or round. They tend to be, or they can be, of different colors and of different shapes. And sadly, the species that are endangered could go extinct if nothing is done to protect them more or better. Now, going back to the soap, I'm sorry for the mess that this has become, and because it was thicker than I would have liked it to be when pouring, I did have to tap it as best as I could against the counter to make sure that any air holes will be filled, and I did have some, but not in all of the bars, just in a few of them. I finished the top by spraying the holographic silver glitter and also putting some of that silver mica to try to create some swirls. In the end, the soap developed a lot of soda ash on top, and I did not steam it necessarily, so it's really hard to see the silver or the glitter, but it is visible, as you will see in the last pictures. I want to thank you for visiting my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.